Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whatever time you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself, of your family, of your friends, and eating good food on time, eating the right amount of food, the right kind of food, drinking water on time, and also taking parts in co-curriculars, but also maintaining well with your curriculars, preparing well for the examinations, making notes. In short, I hope you have your life together, but if you don't, it's all right. You have time, put in efforts, do the same, and pretty soon you'll be happy with the results that you're getting. Okay, so today we shall be discussing the topic which is agriculture. So, what do you understand when we say agriculture? Basically, agriculture is an activity that employs a large amount of people in India and all over the world as well. Agriculture is basically cultivating the soil, growing crops, harvesting those crops, basically farming, and animal husbandry, which is maintenance of livestock. So it has two parts basically. If you look into it, one is the crops part, the other is animals. Um, you know, animals which are kept in farms with the thing in mind that they'll be either later used for their meat or the dairy products that they deliver, that shall be something that shall be considered, or just selling animals as well is something that comes under the entire process of this. So we shall be beginning with this. We shall be covering certain topics as in crops, the major crops in India, where they are grown, what is their, where they are grown, and what particular qualities that they have, what are the requirements for them to grow. We shall be studying about types of crops, and then we shall also be seeing the soil that India, like the soil distribution in the country. So soil is basically the topmost layer. When we talk about soil over here, we talk about the topmost layer of the crust, and it's formed by denuded rocks. When I say denuded, it means broken down, denuded rocks and other minerals which make up this grainy stuff which is known as salt. So without further ado, let's get into agriculture. Keep your pens handy, keep your notebooks handy, make notes. There, almost everything is probably written over here right in front of your screen, but in case you miss something, you can always refer to what I am saying, and always refer back to the notes as well. So there are certain things that I might say which are not mentioned in the text, so please make a note of that as well. And yeah, let's go ahead. Agriculture. Introduction. Agriculture is a primary activity which includes growing of crops, fruits, vegetables, flowers, etc., and rearing of livestock for dairy products and meat, poultry, etc. It should be meat, poultry, etc. So, what is a primary activity? Primary activity is something that includes raw and unprocessed products. So this is what primary activity is. Primary activity includes raw, includes usage or production of raw and unprocessed products. By this we mean that the crops that are grown, they are raw. It's not like that they have been manufactured, that they have gone through a industry process, okay, something like that, which deals with raw things. So this is something that is called primary activity. 2/3 of population is engaged in agricultural activity. So two-thirds of India's population is engaged in agricultural activity, which is like a large chunk of people, and it's because of only these people that we get what should I say, food, and we do not face a scarcity in that area. most of us well. Land on which the crops are grown is known as arable land. What is an arable land? Arable land is the land on which crops are grown. Specialized forms of agriculture are a sericulture. So there are various kinds of agriculture beneath, like there's a broader term agriculture. Then there are various other kinds of agriculture that come inside it. So there's one which is called sericulture, rearing of silkworms. You can see a picture over there. Silkworm is cocooning and making a cocoon. Okay, pisciculture, which is breeding of fish, which is right next to the picture of the worm. So that is how, like, you know, in nets and all of that, fishes are bred and later used for mostly for purpose of eating. Yes, viticulture, which is cultivation of grapes. Cultivation of grapes is known as viticulture, and the place where grapes are grown is known as a vineyard. So, horticulture, growing of flowers, vegetables for commercial use. So, over here, horticulture is not, you know, you like at my place or at some of you's place as well. You must have mango trees or lychee trees or apple trees if you belong from somewhere apples are grown, or let's say lemon trees, probably ladyfinger, aubergines are brinjals. So all these plants or shrubs or trees, you must have them back at your place. Either your father or your mother or maybe you yourself are fond of gardening. So what happens is that that is not something that comes under horticulture. You doing that just for your sake or as a hobby does not come under horticulture. Horticulture is basically the growing of flowers, vegetables for commercial use. Yeah, that is, you earn some kind of money out of the growing of flowers and vegetables that you're doing. Okay, so that is, you go to the market and you sell these, or you otherwise grow them for a commercial purpose. So something like that. Okay, let's go ahead. Types of agriculture. Two types of farming based on geographical. There are two types of farming basically based on geographical conditions, demand of produce, labor, and level of technology. So these are the four things that I kept in mind while dividing these two types of farming. So one is subsistence farming. So, yes. Subsistence farming is a type of agriculture where farmers primarily grow crops and rear animals to meet the needs of their own families. The main characteristics of subsistence farming include. So, okay. What is subsistence farming? Subsistence farming is a type of agriculture where farmers primarily grow crops and rear animals to meet the needs of their own families. So, subsistence farming is, let's say, farmer has a very small field. Someone, let's not even say a farmer, let's say a rural person has a very small field back at his place. Now he is growing crops over there. He grows wheat, later he grows rice, later sometimes he grows certain fruits. So, and on a part of that land, he also rears animals. He keeps animals like there's 2-3 cows, there are 2-3 goats, and there's chicken on his farm as a whole. So what is he doing? Is he using this for commercial purpose? No, that comes under that commercial purpose could be a various kind of things. So it's like over here, subsistence farming is like where the farmers primarily grow crops and rear animals to meet the needs of their own family. So it's to meet the need of their own families. Like sometimes people sell milk. It is also to fulfill the needs of their own families because that brings in money, and with money, family sustains. Right? So this is known as subsistence farming. Next we have the main characteristics. So these are the kinds of subsistence farming basically, I would say. Shifting agriculture, farmers clear a small patch of land and cultivate it for a few years until the soil fertility declines. Then they move on to a new plot of land, allowing the previous land to regenerate. Okay, so it's basically walking around and could be walking around, could be because you have a bigger farm, a bigger land. So what they do is that they clear a small patch of land, and for a few years they keep cultivating it. They add water, they cultivate crops and all of that, and they do that until the soil fertility declines. They keep doing that, and but until at one point of time they realize that the soil has lost its nutrients, or the nutrients have been used up by the crops or something like that, or something of that sort, that the nutrients, the composition of nutrients in the soil has decreased. So what they do is that they move on to a new plot of land, and they clear out the area again and follow the same procedure for a few years until the same happens, that the fertility declines, and meanwhile the first patch of land regenerates. The fertility of the first patch of land regenerates. It goes back to the way it was before. Intensive subsistence farming, small land holding with high labor input and low use of machinery. So here, what are the characteristics? Keep in mind: small land holding, high labor input, and low use of machinery. So it's basically less use of machinery, and there are a lot of people employed in this. Multiple cropping and use of irrigation methods to maximize yield. So intensive subsistence farming uses multiple cropping methods and irrigation methods to maximize their yield. Primitive subsistence farming. It is the most basic form of subsistence farming. Farmers use traditional methods and simple tools to cultivate small plots of land. You can see the word primitive. Primitive means something that's like from the start, something that's very early, very basic, very foundational. So that is what primitive subsistence farming is. It is the most basic form of subsistence farming, and farmers use their traditional methods. They don't normally tend to use fertilizers and all of that, or more should I say chemical fertilizers. I mean, they can use cow dung or manure like that, if that is something that is preferred back then as well. And they use simple tools. They do not use tractors, or they do not use trucks to cultivate these small plots of land. They just cultivate it just like that. Yes. The second kind of farming that there is, first is subsistence farming, the second is commercial farming. So commercial farming refers to large scale agricultural practices where crops and livestock are produced primarily for sale in the market. Okay, so in this, while in subsistence farming, what is preferred is that the farmer gets yield and uses it for family. So like the main purpose over there is to use the yield that they've gotten, or the animals that they rear, for their own family, to fulfill the needs of their own family. But in commercial farming, the scale increases at first, and the crops and livestock are produced. So mainly the crops and the livestock which is there is produced for the purpose of commercial use. So primarily for sale in the market, or I won't say like commercial use. As I said, commercial use can be in the first one as well. But here the main goal is that they need to sell these crops, or they need to sell the livestock that is there. They need to sell the goats for meat. People might buy the goats for meat, for milk, but they've reared these animals for just this purpose. Okay, the main features of commercial farming include plantation agriculture. So first is plantation agriculture, which is large scale cultivation of a single crop, example tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane, on extensive plantations, typically found in tropical regions and often owned by multinational corporations. So plantation agriculture is sees large scale cultivation of just a single crop. And what are these single crops? These single crops are usually called cash crops. That is, so there are two kinds of crops in that sense as well. One is food crop, one is cash crop. Food crop is basically used just for sustaining, just for eating, whereas cash crop is mainly grown with the purpose that you should sell it. Like tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane, jute, all of these come under cash crops. That is, they are not staple, they are not necessary, but they are used for the purpose of selling. That's it. Large scale cultivation, yeah, so this is what it is. And plantation agriculture is usually these plantations are owned by billionaires and millionaires, because it's a large piece of land. And when I say large, I don't mean like as big as your school building area large. Like they could have thousands of plots as well where they grow these things, and hence in turn make products out of it or sell it just like that. Mixed farming, cultivation of crops alongside the rearing of livestock. This combination provides stability and diversification in income sources. So mixed farming is cultivation. So you cultivate crops on one hand, and on the other hand you also rear livestock, both for the purpose of again selling. This combination provides stability and diversification in income sources. So what happens is that if, let's say, your crop yield was not that good, but you reared good amount of livestock, like a good healthy livestock, so your income diversifies and your income remains stable, with the sense that, okay, even if the crops have gone bad, I still have animals who can help me earn money. Okay. So yeah, dairy farming, specialized farming focusing on milk production from dairy animals like cows and buffaloes. Modern techniques such as artificial insemination and improved breed selection are employed. So dairy farming is specialized farming focusing on milk production. Dairy is used for milk products, or products made of milk or milk. So here it basically is production of milk from dairy animals like cows and buffaloes, and for the purpose of actually getting more output, or actually getting a better output, what they prefer is artificial insemination, and they improve the breed selection. So they'll use various methods to make dairy farming more feasible, more economical for them, but in the sense that they earn more from it. Market gardening, intensive cultivation of fruits, vegetables and flowers, usually near urban areas. High value crops are grown to meet the demand of local markets. So market gardening caters only to, like, mostly to the demand of local markets. So let's say you must have heard of, I don't know if it happens everywhere, but from where I've lived mostly these years, there's this everyday market that sets up. So you call it Monday market, Tuesday market, Thursday market, something like that. So maybe people go out and they, or in the US, not here in India, but in the US, say, even these days actually in India, in certain metropolitan cities, in certain metropolitan cities, what the thing is that you go out and you can go to these places which are exclusively reserved for grocery shopping. So here the thing is that these, and where do these people get these fresh items from? So they employ maybe one farmer who lives there, and he's supposed to grow just one kind of, like, just a certain set of crops to fulfill the needs of the urban markets. Okay, so something like that. It's intensive. It usually involves lesser amount of people. Commercial grain farming, large scale cultivation of grain crops like wheat, rice, maize, etc. for commercial purposes. Machinery and modern techniques are used to increase productivity. What are types of crops now? Okay, so this is something that we understand. Rabi crops. Rabi crops are sown in winter season. Remember, Rabi crops sown in winter season. We'll do this. Sown winter, and when in India's winter, even if you like forget October something, just remember that December is the winter, now November is also winter. So like that helps you remember some things like this. And harvest, sown in winter and harvested in spring, but that's not like a clear thing. So we say March to May. 2M months, so it's something that you need to keep in mind. Examples of Rabi crops are wheat, barley, oats, gram, peas, mustard, linseed, etc. Seasonal climatic conditions required by Rabi crops to grow well. Sown during the cooler months when temperatures are relatively lower, so it requires low temperatures to be to undergo the processes for it to become a fully yielding crop. Requires a mild and cool climate with temperatures ranging from 10-25 degrees Celsius. Adequate sunlight and irrigation are essential, of course. Agricultural practices. Rabi crops are generally grown in areas with adequate irrigation facilities. So for Rabi crops, Irrigation facilities are very necessary and hence they are grown in those areas. These crops require less water compared to kharif crops. But at the same point of time, when you compare them to kharif crops, which is another type of crop, these require lesser water. They rely on stored soil moisture and occasional rainfall. So these ones rely on occasional rainfall and stored soil moisture. What is the harvesting time for Rabi crops? They are harvested during the spring season when temperatures rise. Harvesting is usually done in the months of April to May. Kharif crops are sown in the monsoon season. So Kharif crops are sown in the monsoon season. You must have seen if you belong to like an area which is wide open and are living in a rural setting. So you must have seen it's, you know, one day it's raining pretty, like not heavily, but it's drizzling outside. And you must have seen people, you know, sowing these, just keeping these plants like this on the ground. So what are these? These are kharif crops, and this is actually particularly rice. But yes, we see kharif crops are sown in the monsoon season and harvested in the autumn season, that is September to October. Examples of kharif crops are rice, maize, millets, cotton, sugarcane, groundnut, soya bean, pigeon pea, etc. And season and climatic conditions that are preferred by kharif crops, they are sown during the rainy season when temperatures are high. They require warm and humid climate because they are grown, you know, sown during monsoon, with temperatures ranging from 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. Adequate rainfall or irrigation is crucial for their growth. Now, since that they are sown in the monsoon season, so it's very necessary that they are irrigated well and that they get rainfall well in good amount. Agricultural practices. Kharif crops are grown in areas with good irrigation facilities and ample rainfall. So kharif crops are grown in areas with, again, good facilities, but another important thing is that ample rainfall is also necessary. For any kind of crop, there is a certain amount of water that it requires to get, you know, its required nutrients. So good irrigation facilities are necessary almost everywhere except for certain house plants that you guys keep at house, which can be stored in the dark as well. For crops to grow, water is very necessary because it has some essential nutrients. These crops require more water compared to Rabi crops. They rely heavily on monsoon rains for their growth. So monsoon rains necessitate, you know, it becomes necessary for them to be irrigated by monsoon rain. Harvesting time. Kharif crops are harvested during the autumn season when the monsoon retreats. So they are harvested when the monsoon is going away. As in, when does monsoon retreat? It is also known as northeast monsoon or retreating monsoon. This happens quite later in the year, somewhere around October to December. Harvesting is typically done in the months of September to October. These are the months harvesting is done, September to October, yes. So it's when, you know, it's somewhere around September. So the monsoon starts retreating somewhere around September. Zaid crops. Zaid crops are short duration crops that are grown in between Rabi and Kharif crops. Examples of Zaid crops are watermelon, cucumber, bitter gourd, muskmelon, pumpkin, and some leafy vegetables. Season and climatic conditions. Sown during the summer season when temperatures are high, require a hot and dry climate with temperatures ranging from 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. So Zaid crops are grown when the summer season, during the summer season when the temperature is very high, and they require hot and dry climate with temperatures ranging between 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. Adequate irrigation is necessary due to limited rainfall. Agricultural practices. Zaid crops are typically grown in areas with access to irrigation facilities. These crops require regular watering and protection from extreme heat. Harvesting time. Zaid crops have a shorter growing period and hence can be harvested within the 60 to 90 days from sowing. Okay, so from sowing this can be done. From if there are 60 to 90 days have passed after sowing, then you can actually easily cultivate the Zaid crops. Major crops. Now we shall be moving forward. We studied about the types of crops. There's another kind of crops which are called, yes, so there are two kinds of crops. One is called you know, I discussed this before, but let's just say it. Food is purpose, as it mentions, purpose of sustenance. cash is basically again sustenance, but main motive is earning money. Okay, so these are also two kinds of crops that are there. Cash crops again includes maize and things like that. So maize is not something that is very staple. This is non-staple usually. Jute is something that is very non-stable. You can't eat jute actually. So yeah, now we move ahead to major crops in India. So one of the major crops that is eaten all over India is rice, be it from Jammu Kashmir or till Kanyakumari. You will find every household eats a rice and roti, which is chapati. So they might not eat it like in access. It might change, the distribution of them eating it might change with time, with place, but usually it's like a preferred area where in these crops grow. So rice is a staple food crop grown in many parts of the world, especially in Asia. It is a cereal grain and belongs to the grass family. It is a kharif crop. Okay. Uses. Rice is primarily consumed as a staple food by a large portion of the world's population. As I said it, it can be cooked and eaten directly or processed into various products like rice flour and rice bran oil. So one way is that you cook it and you eat it and you are happy. The other ways is that you sell this out, you make rice flour, then you sell it in a more bigger amount. So something like that. Requirements. Rice cultivation requires a warm and humid climate with an average temperature of around 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. So the temperature that is required by a rice plant, rice sapling, is 25 to 35 degrees Celsius, and it requires abundant water for growth, preferably in the form of continuous flooding or controlled irrigation. The soil should be fertile, loamy and rich in organic matter. So for rice to grow, it requires abundant water and in the form of flooded or controlled irrigation. And the soil that is provided should be loamy, fertile and rich in organic matter. Okay. Moving on to wheat. Wheat is a cereal grain widely cultivated around the world. It is a member of the grass family and it's rich in nutrients. So it is very rich in nutrients. Uses. Wheat is primarily used for making various food products such as bread, pasta, noodles and pastries. It can be used for it can also be ground into flour for baking and cooking purposes. So it is a rabi crop. Uses. Wheat is primarily used for making various food products such as bread, pasta, noodles and pastries. It can also be ground into flour for baking and cooking purposes. Requirements are: wheat cultivation requires a cool climate during the growing season with temperatures between 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. So it requires, since it's a rabi crop, it requires you to actually have a cool, it requires a cool climate, a temperature around 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. It requires well-drained fertile soil with a pH range of 6 to 7. So the pH is okay if it's slightly acidic, it cannot be basic. Adequate rainfall or irrigation is necessary for optimal growth, of course. Millets. Millets are a group of small seeded cereal crops. So what are millets? There are small seeded cereal crops. Common types of millets include pearl millet, finger millet, foxtail millet and proso millet. Okay. The uses of millets are consumed as food in many regions, particularly in arid and semi-arid areas. They can be used to make porridge, bread, pancakes and fermented beverages. Requirements: millets are hardy crops that can tolerate dry and drought prone conditions. So if it so happens that there's a prevailing condition of a drought, so people try to I'd say cultivate millets or grow millets or sow millets so that they do not face a lot of issues in the future. They require less water compared to other major crops, and millets can grow in various soil types including poor and marginal soils. So millet is something that is a little sustainable and hence it can it can actually grow in moderate to poor and marginal soils as well. Okay, with this we end this lecture, but we shall soon continue this ahead with more major crops, and yeah, and over there we shall be discussing more of these. Then we shall be discussing about the soils in the country. So stay here, stay with me, and we shall see you soon again. We shall see each other soon again.